Well, when again? I now want to talk about the structure of the world, and that's going to be a multi-part set of material. We will talk about some of the same things that we've been talking about. We're going to come at it from a different direction. One of the things that is probably important to understand is that there's a difference in the way the world is organized between what Shakespeare called the stage setting and the individual dramas, which are the individual biographies. And if you look at the world from the standpoint of the individual biographies first, and the meaning there, given that there is spirit, not just matter, then you can begin to understand that the world is organized on an entirely different basis than we have been thinking so far, based on, you might say, outdated religious ideas that seem to be in conflict with more modern ideas out of science, but which scientific ideas don't recognize that the spiritual is present. So let's look at the structure of the world in terms of the individual biography. As this material unfolds, I think you'll get a better understanding of what's being expressed here. Now, the best way to look at an individual biography is to look at your own. You have one. You know what it's like. You were born someplace. You had some kind of parenting. Maybe not. You were orphaned. Who knows? Maybe you had all kinds of horrible things happen to you, and you ended up, now you're in prison. I don't know any of these things. The only person that knows this intimate element of your story, which is a significant story from the standpoint of the Creator being, is you. And the only one that really knows the most intimate aspects of your interior life is you. And so let's talk about the human being in general, in which you can be a specific example through your own knowledge of your own biography. But it's important, I think, to sort of look at these very simple things, because these very simple things actually are the way the world is organized. And it's important to understand that the world is organized according to principles out of the creation by the divine mystery. It's not organized in a random fashion at all. There's no randomness in the world at all. That's a thing that was developed as a kind of antipathy in the sociology of the development of science to the religious ideas of the Roman Church, and as we've talked before, these ideas were developed by the systematic exclusion of the phenomenon that we're calling qualities. Once you exclude qualities and just have a quantitative view of the universe, then you will get the Big Bang and Darwinian evolution and all the rest of that. But that's because you've limited your understanding to numbers. If you start to include qualities, then you have to deal with the things that we're going to talk about today when I bring forward the sort of the universal aspects of the structure of the world that appear in the individual biography. Now, of course, there's birth and death. Very simple thing. A biography begins and it ends at some point. This is true of every biography of every human being. Then there's the place where the biography begins. And, you know, we have almost 7 billion people in the world, and they are in all these different places born. And each of these places is significant. Yemen is in the news right now because of certain events in the stage setting of the world. But there are all these people that are born in Yemen, and they're living out their biographies there. And they will have a family into which they were born, and they will have a community in which they were born. And this is true of everybody all over the world. We all have these same sort of factors in our lives. And there is a language into which we are born. And there's a cultural understanding of the world into which we are born. And we are thinking beings, and our thinking will be influenced by the nature of the language and the nature of the culture. So as we mature through our childhood and our adolescence and become part of the world and become more of an actor in the world and less of a passive recipient of all these influences that come from parents and community and culture and language and all the rest of that, then we reach a certain stage where we begin to have choices about what we do. And this ability to make choices is complicated. And the only way really to understand it is to sort of look at your own biography and look at the people close to you. Maybe you have siblings, maybe you have brothers and sisters, maybe you have friends from your life that you know intimately, maybe you've been married, maybe you have children. If you just sort of take some time to ponder how each of these individuals develops in a particular context from their inside of things. In other words, you don't look at them just as outsides, but you look at them from the inside, which in my writings I call transitioning from thinking about to thinking with. We think with the biography of another individual, and all of a sudden the mystery of that person starts to unfold before us when we don't just look at them through our own likes and dislikes about who they are. In any event, we have this situation where it's possible for us to make observations which are in our immediate environment, in our particular biography, and then extrapolate those to all biographies and recognize that the guy who stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, he had a biography that led him to that point in his life. The current Pope, Benedict, has a biography that led him to that point in his life. President Obama has a biography. The terrorist that got on the airplane the other day that's supposedly related to Yemen, he had a biography. All these biographies are important. Whenever we think about a particular individual, if we don't look at their biography, whether they're a Rush Limbaugh or a Keith Olbermann or whatever our political ideas might be, if we just see them as a thing and we put them in a category like they're a conservative or they're a liberal or they're a Catholic or they're fat or they think they're smart or whatever these categories are that we throw at them, that's not really who they are. The categories, in fact, come from us. We color the world with the categories, and these categories we have inherited in our biography. They've been imprinted on us by our biography and then our own development and our own thinking, and we put them on the world. We color the world with these categories and these likes and dislikes that we have. And here is, of course, where we get to the mystery that's at the start of the Sermon on the Mount, when Christ says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." He's pointing us in the direction of coming awake to the fact that we have all these categories, we have these likes and dislikes, and we interpret the world through these sort of personal attitudes which we've never really thought about. They're just sort of there. And part of waking up to yourself and coming to knowledge of yourself is to come to knowledge of these elements of your existence. These are profound aspects of your existence. They're part of the structure of the world. And I'm going to stop now because the next theme I take up, I want to have a little more time to elaborate it. And then we'll go on with more material on the structure of the world.